All right, so now we know that, everyone. So please do not, if you are there a day before, which I know a lot of you are spending the night, definitely don't waste your time going over there or anything like that. Todd already doesn't want anyone doing much of anything at all anyway. I'm pretty sure starting Friday. Um, again, sometimes everyone is feeling like they need more tactile, and you don't. Um, the most important thing that everyone needs is visualization, which is laying in your bed or um, in your bathtub. Visualization is the most important. Um, you've already got enough under your belt. We've got preseason, we have season one, we have season two, and now we are in pretty much the fourth season, which is back to indoor again. So it was preseason indoor, then it was outdoor, now it's indoor. Okay, we're at season three. So this is officially like your third season worth of practicing. So visualization is critical um, to understand how it works. First of all, are the way that the human brain works. We have mirror neurons in the human brain. I know I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. Mirror neurons mimic. That's what makes an actor a really good actor. They have more mirror neurons than us. Number one. Number two, they've worked their mirror neurons harder than we have. I don't know if any of you have ever watched. I've seen like little clips of Tom Cruise, like behind the scenes, and I will watch him. I've watched him before. Like he'll meet somebody. Let's just pretend what I was watching was he was talking to a real Russian, and it was behind the scenes of some, Mission Impossible movie that he was doing, and I was watching his face, and he was looking at the Russian talk to him, and he was just watching every single thing that the Russian was doing with his face, his gestures, his mouth, his nose, everything. What he did with his mouth and his jaw when he was speaking, and then he literally replicated it. I was like, "What the fuck is that?" It was incredible. So their ability to impersonate, their ability to act out and become somebody else is mirror neurons. It's not IQ. It's an actual neuron. So every human, every animal on the planet has mirror neurons in their brain. That's what makes little ducks copy the mother duck. Every single animal copies um, its parents or whatever its leader is. Um, with the mirror neuron. So visualization is just you using your mirror neurons, looking at stuff. I can tell, I can tell when people are actually watching video. Like I can see a lot of Michelle, for example. I can see who she's watching. I watch so many javelin people. I'm like, she's watching that German world record guy. I see how she's throwing now. Like I can literally see who Michelle's watching when I watch her form. I can tell when Mike watches a lot. I can tell when he doesn't. It shows up. It like comes out in your behavior. The way that Rhonda and Rachel looked with the weighted throw Sunday, I could tell you're watching. Like your whole demeanor, everything is changing. How you put your glove on, all that kind of stuff. So um, you all are just putting a little too much value on the actual tactile kinesthetic part, and the visualization part is a critical part. 98% of all learning comes from the eyes. Only 2%, the other 2% is ears or auditory or phonics, what you hear, what you're told, and then kinesthetic, what you actually do. So if 98% is visual, spend more time um, buying into and believing that, watching the videos and stuff and going to sleep on it. The reason that you want to do it, because the subconscious brain hooked to the reptile brain, well, the reptile brain has no eyes or ears. That's why it's a really stupid brain. But it also doesn't know the difference between you doing something or whoever you're watching on the videos doing it. So it makes the subconscious believe it was you. It doesn't know. So when you do it before you go to sleep, the reason that's so crucial to do it at that time is because you go to sleep after just looking at that, and then your brain's all fresh with that. It convinces your subconscious, oh, that's you that was just throwing like that, or that was you that was just running that 60 like that, or that was you that got out of the block so good. um, so That's why visualization is so important, and why we keep saying, do it before you go to sleep, do it before you go to sleep, do it before you go to sleep. So your mirror neurons get set off, but then when you go right before you go to sleep, you're still going to remember it while you're going to sleep, and it starts to convince your subconscious it's you, no matter who you were watching. Obviously, you're watching something good, not something stupid. Okay. So Rachel told us that about Spire. So no going to Spires the day before, not open. Todd already doesn't want people doing a bunch of anything anyway, besides resting. You don't need to chance any kind of injury, overuse, soreness, any of that stuff. So just do your prehab stuff, your soaking, relaxation. A lot of pro athletes, they will literally stay in bed for a day or two before they actually go to a big game. It's like that kind of rest is irreplaceable. There's not another thing you can do that replaces you just laying. Watching movies, watching TV, you can watch whatever you want to watch, but you just laying is the greatest healer that you can do, to get ready, because that much rest just makes you more amped up when you need to be amped up, on Sunday when it's time to actually do it. So rushing around, rushing and doing a bunch of shit, going too extroverted, especially if you're not an extrovert, that's the worst direction to go. So be careful of that. So it's best to just really chill, be calm. Karen, I think you're on. Karen, can you talk about, you talking to those colleges and about the liability form and what they're saying about, AMP being able to go in, and use, I can't remember which college, if it's Audubon or if it's Capital. Can you
Yes.
talk now?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. We haven't gotten much further. I was just waiting for Todd and you guys to decide which day to pick. And then we go from there. So, and I sent you guys that email today. She responded with some dates. So it's at Otterbein and Capital. They both say that they're going to try to accommodate. Otterbein was impressive. They emailed back right away and said, hey, I think we can accommodate you. And they gave us some dates for their spring break and said
Yeah.
you can use it. Yeah. And then
Okay.
she didn't respond to like I said, I was sort of waiting to see what you guys said about date. And then either you can email her back in our combination
We want to do
email.
it all. Yeah. I don't want to just pick. I want her to just, let us fill out the liability form and we can go. I just want to be able to go on Sunday nights until
Okay.
I actually go outdoors. I don't want to have to pick and choose. I would just be like, if you just tell us after 3 p.m. on Sundays, and then we fill out the liability form, and I just want to go there, you know what I mean, randomly 3 p.m. on Sundays. That would be the easiest thing if Todd talks to her and says that. I don't want to have to choose a date. So that way, anyone that wants to go, they know, okay, go to Audubon or go to Capital or whatever, indoor track after 3 or whatever.
Okay. Well, I'll see the dates that she gave. I'll just say, hey, we'll take all of those then. Is that what you mean?
Exactly.
Because they're
Yeah.
not
So,
always on Sundays. The one was during the week for their spring break. And I'll just say that and for her to send us liability. Now, I've asked her what the charge is and I haven't heard. So I
well,
don't know
hopefully
if there.
there isn't one. That would be great if there isn't
That'd be
one.
great. So
Great.
Capital said he would do the same. He'll
Oh,
have to give me some dates in the future, but there was a charge. He didn't say what it was, but he said there would be a discount because I'm an alum. But hopefully, Otterbein
okay.
works out.
Okay. That's great.
Okay, well,
Um,
I'll connect with you then.
Yeah, so the goal would be, yeah, if they can just give us like Sundays are best and after 3 p.m. on a Sunday, okay, great. And if there is during their spring break a little bit of flexibility, okay, that's fine too. But I like to get something fixed. So if someone
Yep.
says, hey, I want to go over on Sunday, let's go over and throw for a couple hours or sprint or do our blocks or whatever. We're only talking really, the rest of the coldness here. Our coldness is pretty much going to go on for about another 4.5 weeks, according to everything I've been reading. So the rest of February and a little bit of March. So then it's
Okay.
supposed to warm in the high 50s by the time we get to after the 16th of March. So really, this is all we're talking. It's this next
Okay.
6 weeks.
I'll just tell her we'll take all those dates then.
Yeah,
And
take every.
and I think she said Sunday Eve, there were a couple Sunday evenings because they're booked, throughout. They're even having other colleges because like Ohio Dominican, no, that was with Capital. Ohio Dominican is even going over there because they don't have an indoor track. So they're trying to fit it all in. So I'll
Yeah,
follow up with it today.
that's great. That's perfect for us.
Okay.
Okay. And then I wanted to let everyone know, that was getting a tank made for this meet. She was printing everything on Sunday night, early into Monday. So in the next 24 to 48 hours, all the tanks should arrive. So I'll have them. I'll send a text out once I actually have them. And I think it was just 3 or 4 of you that had tanks made. If you already have an amp up tank and you're actually wearing a tank, then just wear your amp up tank. These were 3 or 4 people that didn't have a tank and they didn't want to wear the t-shirt. But we'll all have just our red uniform shirts on, unless you have the red uniform tank. So you understand that. I want Brittany to talk about glute activation. I saw way too much lack of glute activation on the throwers in a awful way. So I want her to discuss glute activation again, because still too much thinking that throwing is a arm event, and it is so far from being an arm event. It's incredible, and there just wasn't enough butt engagement on the maneuvering of everything. So, Brittany, you talk about glute activation.
Let me tell you something about glute activation. When your glutes are not activated and you've been traveling and you've been on 21 flights in 21 days, and then you come back
what did
after
you
a red
just
eye,
have?
I
What
went
did
on
you just
21 flights in 21 days.
Oh my God.
And I came back on a red eye overnight. And I go to see Chuck tomorrow. I got one good lower body work in Monday. That's why I'm limping around today. I got a good upper body workout in this morning, stretched after both. But when we were at the track on Sunday, my glutes were not activated.
Oh no.
And it added about a half a second to my time. So that is what I learned about glute activation. And it just really goes to show, when we did that, when we all went to Wittenberg, it's not like I had run at a track. I did like 2 time trials since we did like throw and jump nationals. So it's not like I was practicing at a track at all before we did that time trial. And I got 8.03. So best time ever. So happy with that. Right there, contending for the national championship, like right on track for that. That goes to show the power of proper athletic training and all of this work I've been doing to get my body to where the mobility training gets your body so that it moves properly. So then when you're actually doing your exercises, your glutes can activate. So I can see a huge difference in my body and the way that I perform exercises over the past year. Most notably, my hips were not rotating symmetrically, meaning that my left hip was rotating in the ball and socket joint differently than the right one would. And it was caused my hips to go down and out a little bit every single time I would do a squat, or even like a leg press or a hack squat or anything like that. So when I'm talking about mobility training and all of these mobility exercises, that I'm dying from your heater. I don't know why I'm the one dying.
I'll turn it.
Good Lord.
There you go.
It's usually I'm the one freezing.
I'll get it off of you too.
Thank you. Hold on. I gotta take a layer off. Okay. So when I'm talking about the mobility exercises, and I know that, I've been figuring it out as I go. And a lot of you have asked, when am I supposed to be doing these exercises? How am I supposed to be doing them? How many times a week? The thing that I've figured out that helps me and works best with my life and my schedule and efficiency is to do it basically as a superset. So if you're doing your set of squats or lunges, or even one of your exercises that we give you on the YouTube videos, throw another mobility exercise in there. So all the stuff that we do at our practices, or that you guys have worked with me on, throw those in and mix those in during your rest period. So that's how I started designing my own workouts and training myself. And that's how I train my Thursday night group. And that is the program that, I'm developing, that is going to be part of our whole Amp Up Sports training program. And, you guys have been our guinea pigs for all these years. And in this case, it wasn't just like, what do you guys like? What's the feedback? It's like, no, what actually gets the athletic performance up? So what gets the weight down? What gets the pain to go away? What gets the athletic performance to improve? So that's what we've been working on these past couple of years on ourselves and experimenting with. And we're kind of like at that point where we have it figured out now. So glute activation is the only way that the largest muscle group in your body is going to get utilized. So whether you're a sprinter, and it comes to generating power, or whether you're a sprinter and it comes to getting the pain in your knees and your shins and your feet to go away, your glutes need to be generating the most force and they need to be absorbing the most force.
Oh.
So when my glutes were not activating properly, it's like bad shocks in a car, and I could fucking feel it. I could feel it when I was running, and I would go in to see Chuck, and I was like, I feel like my suspension's off. My shocks are off. Everything just hurts when I land, and I know I'm not landing symmetrically, and everything just felt bumpy. So glutes and then your core. And when I say core, I'm not just talking about abs you can see on the outside. I'm talking about deep core, like the kind of core rehab that women have to go through after childbirth. Like that's the kind of deep core that you actually have to activate as an athlete. So again, this is just as important whether you're a sprinter, a jumper, or a thrower. That core, your glutes and your core are the center of all of your power and all of your stability. So again, whether it's you're trying to generate more force and more power, or it is you're trying to absorb all that force and your power. So Dale, for example, her knee getting tweaked, what they're having her do is a lot of, working on the mobility of that knee and strengthening everything around it, but working on her glutes and her core and making sure that those things are controlling the motion and then controlling the momentum to not tweak her knee when she's throwing something. It's been interesting to have conversations with her about what she's learning from the physical therapist, and it just all goes together. So the most important thing I can say about glute activation, like Melinda was just saying about visualization, it's really about getting in touch with your body, because you can go from point A to point B. People can see you in the gym. They can think your squats look great. They can think you're doing fabulous. They won't know if your glutes are activated or not. It's really about you squeezing those glutes and slowing everything down. And so I started doing a lot of things as negative. So if I'm doing squats, I'm going slow on the way down, slow on the way up. And you want to make sure that, just like I'm teaching you guys during all the different mobility exercises, you're never giving your glutes a break. So if you're going down, they're staying flexed the whole time. We're not bouncing at the bottom. We're coming up. We're not resting at the top. My glutes are still clenched. My knees are not straight all the way. So everything is still completely engaged. And then we just go back down, and then we're coming back up. So no bounce.
And no hyperextension.
And no release. So
I
can feel at that bottom, you want to release your glutes to get down a little bit lower. So this is kind of anti-powerlifting.
No release.
Don't think about getting as low necessarily. Think about where you go to engage those glutes. And if you get to a point where you start to lose that flex, and you start to, that muscle goes loose and another one tightens up instead, we're off. We've missed the mark here. So don't think about mobility. You're thinking about range of motion. When you're doing exercises for activation, I don't want you to think about being super flexible and range of motion in the same way. Think about you stay in that range of motion where those muscles stay contracted. And it's going to be different for every single person. And it has to do with, especially on squats, the width of your hips, the turnout of your hips, the length of your femur, how long your lower shin is, how big your feet are, how the angle of your feet, all of those things are going to affect your squat.
Yeah.
So when it comes to something like squats or like hip lifts, I burn doing 10 hip lifts just with my feet on the ground with no weight on.
Yeah.
And so you should actually be squeezing your glutes that much. Can you lift your ass up and down off the ground? Yeah. Can you do it 1,000 times? Yeah. But do it 10 times, really squeezing and contracting everything. And even when you come down to the floor, just kind of like tap the floor and go right back up. Don't release on the floor. So that's creating more time under tension. And that is a new way that you can challenge your muscles in a very not strenuous, low impact way. So kind of like how we've done low impact boot camps for years, this is almost like a lower impact form of weight training, where you're not overloading the muscle with a ton of weight necessarily, like you do with powerlifting, but you're overloading it with time under tension, and by really keeping that muscle flexed and engaged.
Okay.
The other thing I would say,
I think that's going to get them. I think because what you just said, doing something where you don't let that squeeze, that release happen, that's going to cause more consciousness of it. And your different positions. Like when I'm in sumo, I can't squeeze my ass at all.
Exactly.
In the sumo, I can only get my butt cheeks to squeeze when my legs are more narrow.
Yeah.
As soon as I spread them out wide, my ass cannot squeeze. I can't squeeze it tight.
The other thing that's helped me, especially like when I'm doing hip lifts, and I'll do hip lifts at the gym. I mean, you see girls throwing around, you know, like 225 on the bar, 275. I just put 135 on, start off at 95. And I do hip thrusts where you lift up and just hold for 5 seconds and just keep everything clenched and then back down.
Okay.
And so hold for 5 seconds,
Oh,
not
Jesus.
just like a 3.
Oh
So
God,
do
that
holds
fire
like that.
would be
It burns.
horrible.
The first time I did it, I sat on the ground and my ass was throbbing for like a whole minute. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And also, higher is not better. So when you're doing something like that, really focus on, move the camera down a little bit.
Higher is not better.
You want to focus on this part of your glute, because that, especially for track, that's going to generate more power. So this part of your glute is what you actually want to squeeze in. And you can see that if I go past a certain angle, it's getting more of the upper glute. It's not getting this part anymore. So this part is only flexed till about here. And then if you go past that,
no,
it's not. And it's actually, if you go too far, it's engaging your low back. And that's the opposite, because your low back is not, it needs to be strong so you don't get hurt, but it's not a power center of your body. So when it comes to things with the glutes, really focus on that lower part of your glute where the hamstring ties in. Really focus on squeezing that, because that's going to be, whether you're pushing and you're throwing something or you're doing the shot put, that's going to be that's where that hip thrust power comes from. And for sprinting, especially for getting out of the blocks, that's where that push off comes from. So gluteus medius, the one on the side, this is your gluteus medius that wraps around right here.
Okay.
That is important as a stabilizer. So you want to strengthen that because that's a stabilizer, but that's not your powerhouse. Your powerhouse of your glutes is going to be that under glute, that under part of your cheek, right where it ties into the hamstrings.
And it causes all the force when you're throwing, when you're twisting to throw.
Yeah.
The force is right there in the biggest part of your
gut.
gut.
It causes the stability. So something like throwing or twisting, it's also going to stop you. So the power doesn't go into your knee. So the torque doesn't go into your knee. So you want to be able to push and then stop yourself. And that comes from a strong core and then a strong glute area.
Okay, good. Anybody have any questions about that glute activation? Anybody have any questions? Okay, well, then that means the explanation. What's this say?
Karen.
Going over the glutes, slowing down exercise. That's big. Yeah, exactly.
And it will burn like crazy. Don't think there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, no way.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that fire. I burn so fast.
Yeah.
This is Michelle. I have a question too. So this is less of a focus on like fast twitch. This is more just really building stamina and right. Like there's a difference in the mentality of how we're approaching this.
Well,
fast twitch is not for stamina.
Yeah.
We don't want any stamina.
Focus
I wouldn't say there's stamina muscles. It's really, it's the ability to use all of the muscle fibers that are in that muscle area.
Okay.
So if you think about it more like activating all of those muscles and feeling the burn throughout the entire muscle, it's not like it's going to help. It helps with stamina and it also helps with fast twitch. So don't think about it when you're doing the exercise in terms of fast twitch or slow twitch. Just think about it in terms of like how intensely can you squeeze that muscle and how much can you feel it burn?
So how much can you squeeze it?
Yeah.
And how much can you feel the burn?
Yeah.
And how much can you feel the burn? And so the burn, your ability to generate that burn means you're causing lactic acid. That's what that burn is. So you must be doing something to your mitochondria and all those muscle fibers that you're making lactic acid cause that burn in that muscle fiber.
Yeah, you're fatiguing the muscle. So like, for example, on those hip thrusts, the glutes, you should feel your glutes like quivering and twitching and like about to give out by the end of it. Okay. So go for that feeling where like they're literally like twitching because you're squeezing them so hard.
Okay. Okay. All right. So we got that in. Does anybody have any other questions before we go on to this lesson? I'm going to go into the screen share on this video. Anybody have any questions about the meat, about anything else? Now, some of you that are on keto, you just stay on keto for the diet, unless, like Karen, because you are doing an endurance sport, you have a need for a little bit of clean carbs or whatever, but you're the only one. The rest of you that are part of keto and doing keto, you're just fine eating exactly like you're eating. So no need to change your diet at all. Make sure you have your snacks and stuff the day of. Your fat intake, I wouldn't make it bacon or sausage. That fat could be a little too much fat. Turkey bacon's a different story. Chicken sausage, that's a different story, just no pork in it. So that'd be the only thing I'd say is avoid the pork. Avoid pork if you're bringing your snacks and stuff like that. But you'll be perfectly fine. You're burning fat the whole day anyway. That's what the goal is. Keep driving that body.
What time does your event start?
To start,
Yeah,
Yeah,
if
when
I'm,
does-
I'm gonna go.
I was
I
gonna,
know most of the
I was
time,
gonna ask.
most of the time, the equipment and everything has to be tested like 8 to 8:30. I thought most of the time it starts at 10. Rachel, do you have any info on that?
So it actually opens at 8:30, and
8:30.
then so that's when we'll go and start getting our implements weighed. And then I
Yep.
believe you're correct. It typically is 10 o'clock.
Yeah, 8:30
Um,
to 9:30 is usually equipment check-ins.
Yeah, because they'll start with, I think the jumps are going to be similar to the outdoor where they're like kind of a free for all, but during like, a certain time frame. And then they'll have the races and the throws and stuff at specific times.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. And the schedule, I did see the schedule. It just doesn't have the time. It just shows you what is going on and what's starting or whatever.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So 8:30, 9:30 equipment checks. And then, now my next question, Rachel, I don't know if you know this answer. So let's say, how you're using, your weighted throw and Mike is going to use your weighted throw. And then same thing, I think it's Jody and Rhonda and possibly Karen all sharing the same. What happens with people using your item? Do they have to say, I'm using this too, write me down for this, that it's been checked in? What happens when people share implements?
That's what I did of the outdoor one. Is I went up and I didn't have one because I was using Miranda's,
Yeah.
and they said, "Which one are you using?" And I said, one of my teammates, and they said, "Is she for sure coming?" And I said, "Yes." They said, "Okay," and they marked me down.
Okay, so every person has to go up. You just said, so it probably would be good, whichever thing you're using, walk up with that person. So we're both sharing this one unit. Please mark us both down, kind of thing.
Yeah, because they'll check you both. Typically, that's what you're supposed to do. They probably were lenient, but typically, what you're supposed to do is like if Mike's borrowing mine, he needs to weigh. We need to weigh our implements kind of one after another, and then like my shots by myself. So
Okay.
I'm just doing that, so I can just weigh that by myself. No one's using that.
Okay.
Melinda and Britt, just for FYI, I know for the outdoor race walk, mine started at 9.
Yeah.
So I'll be a little bit earlier, but I think the
well, I'm
3,000.
trying to open this file that Miranda sent. Let's see what it says here.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so it says schedule. Doors open at 8:30. Field and running events rolling start at 9:30 a.m. Awards, event schedule. Okay, running 3,000 race walk in the mile, 1,500, 60 hurdles, 400. Okay, so it just says rolling. So yeah, it does say 9:30 a.m. So, yeah, 9:30 a.m. says the begin time on this form right there. So, especially you, Karen, you have no equipment, so like you always have to warm up. You'll be warming up and stuff like that before you actually get going. Okay, so yeah, almost everyone's got a 60 meter or that walk. So almost everybody, all the sprinters and the race walkers, you guys are all right up front. So yeah, being there 8 8:15, 8:30, get checked right away, and then begin the warm up and all that. Okay. Well, that covered all that. We're going to go over this lesson. It's going to go from, what is that, about 7 minutes. It goes really fast. This guy Quasi talks really fast. You can watch a whole video on your own. Let me go to screen share and see if this machine does it this time. I want to share a Chrome tab. I want to share that. Okay. You see my Indian man Quasi on the screen. Can I
Somebody
get a
say
hell
yes.
yeah? Can I get a hell yeah?
Or no.
Yeah, we
whatever
got
it is.
Yeah, he's there.
Okay, good.
Okay, good. All right. So, even though his title says God tests you before your reality finally shifts, it's a little bit deceptive on that title. This is actually about, this is so deep. This is about putting too much importance on things. And in the universe, if you have a feeling, an emotion of too much importance, that's called creating excess potential. And when you create excess potential in the universe hates that. And the universe has to balance it back out because you are creating imbalance with your thought energy. And when we create imbalance, the universe does the course of least resistance. And it's going to do whatever it takes to bring the balance back. So if you make somebody else too important, if you make yourself too important, if you make a goal you have too important, you're creating excess potential. All of us have done this shit before. So this lesson is so critical. You need to actually really take the time to listen to this. He's such a great teacher. He writes it on the board. He really explains deep. He's very intuitive. So the intuitives, I know there's maybe one, two intuitives out there are going to like it, but then the sensors, SFs, FTs, they're going to like how he actually writes it down and he'll show you visual. So I'm going to go from like minute 6 so you can hear a little bit about his story and how he was fucking up. And then you'll see how he started to learn from his lesson and what started happening to him. It's about 6 or 7 minutes. And then, like I said, you can watch the rest of this shit on your own. I'm just getting this real important part of the lesson in, especially with a team that has so much Libra. I don't need out of balance Libras.
And I didn't know what to do. So I tried many different things, dropshipping,
Can you all hear okay?
everything. I just wanted to live the laptop lifestyle. I just wanted to go online and live the life that would give me freedom and just escape working in an office job. I just didn't want to follow someone else's orders. By May of 2019, when I'd graduated, I had made an agreement with my parents who had paid $250,000 to send me to college, get me an engineering degree. And I told them, hey, if by May of 2019, I can make $5K a month with this YouTube and this coaching business that I've got, you can't give me shit, I would be free to pursue my business because that would replace the income that I was getting, which was around 40 grand a year, 50 grand a year for my engineering job. So my parents agreed. And right around the date that I graduated, I set out with full intention, full commitment. Okay, I'm gonna have to prove to my parents that I can do this. And guess what happened that month? Prior to that month, I was doing around 1 to 2K a month, signing a couple of clients here and there, and it was sort of consistent. I was wavering between 1 to 4K a month. It was just up and down. But then May of 2019, I just remember I put so much attachment to this goal of making 5K a month. I really wanted to prove to my dad, you know, I didn't want to disappoint him because I thought he was disappointed in me in pursuing this path. I had a vendetta. I had a plan. So that month, I just made absolutely nothing and it destroyed me. And I could remember every single day my dad would come upstairs and be like, hey, did you make any sales today? Did you get any money today? Did you collect anything today? Oh, you didn't. Oh, great. See? I'm telling you it's not going to work. And it almost felt like no one believed in me. I was fighting against all odds and it was just me against the world. And with that strain on my shoulders, I went through that whole month until literally the last day of the month, I broke down. I'm like, this is it. You know, I was supposed to do this and now, you know, I failed at it. Wait, I failed at it. The thing that I was afraid of failing at, I actually genuinely failed at it. And I'm just going to keep going. I've been trying every single month and every single sales call that I got onto, there was so much attachment. I needed this. I really, really needed this. But as soon as that need, that importance went away, guess what happened? The next month, I made my first 8K month. I've never made an 8K month before. Because I released this attachment, I made my first 12K month. The month after, in August, I made my first around 18 to 20K month. All of this was a result of me lowering my importance, which led me to one of the greatest realizations that completely changed my life. The law of balance. There is a subtle balance, a sweet spot between the effort that you put in and the surrender that you have. Now, in ancient yogic knowledge, Patanjali in the Yoga Sutras, thousands of years ago, described this as the balance between avyasa and vairagya, Sanskrit, for balancing effort and surrender. With all yogic practice, the goal is to attain enlightenment, achieving self-realization. But in this journey, when you're going about your practice, there also has to be a surrender towards it. In the attainment of any goal in your life, you must know what that subtle balance between effort and surrender is. And that's what I just demonstrated to you, because I was putting in the effort. Don't get me wrong, I was really good at taking massive action, but I wasn't surrendering. And if you don't surrender, if your importance level is too high, you disrupt the balance of the universe. How? Through building what's called excess potential. If I take this chalk and I bring it up from ground level, I'm creating gravitational potential that is directly proportional to how much I've raised it. When I give it gravitational potential, it is a potential energy. Just like that, when you inflate, you artificially project importance towards any outcome that you want to achieve, anything out there or any quality that you possess. When you give it too much importance with respect to other things in your life, then you create excessive potential, you create an imbalance. So if you imagine that the field of the universe is sort of uniform, when you put excessive importance with your thought energy towards something, towards that financial goal that you have, towards that partner that you want to manifest, or towards that quality, that insecurity that you have, all of a sudden you bunch up this concentrated attention on that particular quality, which disrupts the balance of the universe. And what does the universe do when we disrupt its balance? It is a perfect system. It will always be in a state of balance and it will always strive to create balance. So whenever we create an imbalance by putting something on a pedestal, putting that goal on a pedestal, it starts to control us, it starts to run us. The universe then sends balanced forces to bring it back to neutral. And the main way it does it is through taking what's called the path of least resistance. I really want you to pay attention to this, because if you understand this, your life will completely change. The universe takes the path of least resistance to balance out any inhomogeneity that we have in this field. In the example of me wanting to achieve my financial goal, the easy thing for it to do was keep me further and further away from it until I forgot about it and gave up. So that's usually what happens when you generate too much importance towards something. If you are on a tightrope, or a plank laid across the ground and you walk across it, your importance level isn't too high. You're just simply walking like you would on the ground. You're safe. But if we raise that plank on top of two very high altitude towers and you have to cross the plank to get to the other side, now your importance level is going to be super, super high. And the easiest thing for nature to do to balance out that excess potential that you generate by fearing, by placing importance on your life with your natural survival instinct, the easiest thing for nature to do is throw you off and plunge you into your own death. It's kind of messed up to think about, but that's what's happening. So when we put something on a pedestal, when we put too much importance on something, we are creating this imbalance, and it's creating balance forces from nature to come in and restore this balance. And usually it restores balance in ways that are unfavorable to you and me. So the thing to understand here is there are two types of importances that we generate: the importance of outer and the importance of inner. Outer importance is when something outside of me gains too much meaning. I put too much meaning on something outside of me. This could be something that you're trying to attain, some goal you're trying to achieve, financial goal, relationship goal, or something you're trying to get. Inner importance is when some quality about me gains too much importance. Think excessive cockiness or excessive modesty. Modesty isn't the right word, but let's say self-deprecation. Whenever you put too much importance on a particular quality I have, oh, I can do anything, I'm better than them, I'm better than this, you generate excessive importance, excessive meaning, and therefore you create an imbalance. So when you become excessively cocky, life throws these tests at you, or balanced forces to bring you back down, to show you that you are not that good. You know, I remember when I was doing sales and I got really good at it, I became extremely cocky. I was like, oh, I can close anything. I'm just going to go out there and just close everything. And then I would have streaks, you know, weeks of when I just didn't close anything. But then on the other hand too, I remember feeling very, very down about myself. But then, surprisingly, it's not like the universe gave me the quality that I was putting myself down about. It also kept me down at that level. So when I didn't feel confident about myself, I was getting more and more of something that showed that I shouldn't be confident. When I didn't feel good about my sales ability, or I didn't feel good about the videos that I was making, life would then show me, oh, see, you're not good at making videos. then I just couldn't understand why this was happening. But upon further investigation, what I realized was that life, again, takes the path of least resistance. It takes the easiest thing for it to do. The easiest thing for it to do is to knock you off your stride or to keep you where you are at. It's really difficult to understand how the universe operates, but we just have to understand that anything that creates an imbalance is something that we should stray away from. Okay, we want to stay at a state of balance and move with pure intention. So let's talk about the 2 keys that you can use to overcome this imbalance. And in particular, what I realized was to overcome the imbalance of outer importance. When I was placing something on a pedestal, I saw that I was becoming too goal attached. I became too goal oriented. What needed to happen was I needed to become process oriented. When you become process oriented and you fall in love with the process itself of doing something, then you immediately detach from the goal. You immediately take it off the pedestal. It doesn't matter what the goal is. You're simply in love with the process. So Patanjali even talks about it in the Yoga Sutras. He says, fall in love with the act of doing yoga and the result will come. So process oriented simply means falling in love with the process, falling in love with the game. If you listen to really, really successful athletes, they always say one thing. This is very, very shocking for me to hear. The other day I was at a conference and Tom Brady was speaking in it. You know, the guy who was running the conference, Patrick Bet-David, he was like, hey, so what is the secret to your success? Like, why did you become so successful? He was like, I stopped focusing on other people. I just focused on becoming better and better, like a better version of me every single day. I just focused on the process, focused on improving at the drills, and I really just treated it like a game. And he never created imbalance by being cocky or, you know, self-deprecating. He had this certainty, this conviction about himself that he could figure it out, kept himself in balance, and he just focused on becoming incrementally better every single day, just taking it step by step. And I've seen every single successful person talks about this. Kobe Bryant used to talk about this. Michael Jordan used to talk about this. Michael Jordan, when asked, a mother of a kid who was getting into basketball, I think it was a teenager, she was like, how can my son be as good as you? He was like, tell him to fall in love with the game. Because when you fall in love with the game, you stop counting the hours, you stop looking at the next trophy you want to get. You really just focus on getting better and better at it every single day. The second thing you have to understand, and this is the mitigation for inner importance, whenever you get cocky, you have to bring yourself into balance. Whenever you get self-deprecating, you have to bring yourself into balance. So you have to get to that sweet spot between effort and surrender. And this is what I realized. And one mantra that I say to myself is, I'm neither special nor unspecial. I simply just am. I'm neither great nor ungreat. I'm neither special nor unspecial. I simply am. That realization that I am has always brought me down from being excessively cocky. Think about it this way. Cockiness usually is an artificial projection of confidence. It's not real confidence. Really confident people never need to go out there and say, huh, I'm confident, I can do anything. They never need to even tell themselves they're confident. They just simply go out and do. You don't brag about being able to walk, right? Like, I'm really good at walking. Look at me. I'm very good at balance. Like, I'm better than you. The problem comes when you start to compare yourself with others. Nothing builds excessive potential and imbalance like you comparing yourself to others. When you start to compare yourself to others, you immediately create this importance barrier. I am important than this person. But when you focus on, like Tom Brady and Michael Jordan do, on becoming better than you every single day, your only competitor is who you were yesterday, then you no longer create this excess potential. I am better at sales than I was yesterday. I'm really, really good at sales compared to what I was yesterday, or compared to how I was a year ago. Not compared to that person and that person. So when you get into the comparison mode, get into comparing you with yourself. Another thing that I learned is it's best to have pictures instead of other people that you look up to and idolizing other people. It's best to have a picture of yourself and who you see yourself as. Like putting up a picture of yourself and looking at it and thinking of that as the highest expression of yourself, your highest self, instead of trying to be like someone else, walking your own path. You now have to understand the second law, which is the law of intention. Every time we make an intention, life tests us. Why? Now you've just made a resolve to have something. You've made a decision with yourself to have something. If you are not going through tests and you're not being tested, that means you're living in your comfort zone. That means you're not growing. You either grow or you die. There is no staying the same. Staying the same is when the rate of growth and the rate of death are equal. To understand the law of intention, we really have to understand the mirror principle.
All right,
What I
I'll
mean
stop
by
in there.
the
You
mirror
can watch the
principle
rest of that on your own. Oh, you saw that death one. That was awful. Yuck. So it's a death rate
It's the same
equals
as the growth rate.
growth rate. When
Mhm.
those both equal each
Yeah.
other. Oh, awful. Okay, stop the share. Let's see if we're back. All right. Did it bring us back to you?
Yep.
Okay, got you. All right. Well, obviously, those of you, you know who you are. You self-deprecators, you know who you are. You're too goal-oriented. You're looking at other people too much. No need to call out names. You know exactly who you are. Anyway, that was a amazing lesson. Hopefully it sinks into your brains and your emotions. So, and that's all about balance. I love that universal thing. The universe will always bring you back into balance. So it's not superstition. It is, this planet is a planet of balance, and you can't create excess potential in anything. Not in a human, not in a child, not in a relationship, not in your competition, not in cash and jobs, relationships, nothing cannot have excess potential. So, okay, well, that was a big thing. I wanted you to all get in there and finish watching Quasi. He's so good. Let me take the little link here, share link, copy that, and bring it back over. Hold on. And I will put it in here for you guys to have there is the link right there. So if you want to finish watching it, really, really good. All right. Anybody have any questions? If not, we are good. We've got everything in. And pretty much workouts should go until Friday. Start relaxing starting on Friday, please.